today we're going to look at something that I call Tasteful Sweep Arpeggios. Incidentally, if you enjoy this content, please hit like and subscribe. It will really help to grow the channel. So we're not talking about this kind of thing, you know, the old kind of Woody Woodpecker sweeps that just kind of go on and on and on for days. We're talking about kind of just a short flurry of notes that are swept and they're arpeggios. So by definition, they are sweep arpeggios. You heard a load of them in the intro solo. Incidentally, the entire transcription for this video lesson will be available. I'm going to put a link down below. That will include the tab of the solo I played at the start, Guitar Pro 8 files, backing track, full tab. So, you know, check that out for a more kind of in-depth study of this lesson. On that intro solo I used a lot of these kind of what I call mini sweeps or tasteful sweep figures. So they're basically, we're working in the key of, D Dorian. That intro solo was your typical kind of Dorian type affair, which was D minor 7 to G7, you know, that kind of jam band staple. And I was playing this kind of figure. This is a D minor 7 sweep. I was playing a lot of that kind of figure, different arpeggios. We'll go into that in a minute. But this has a definite rhythm. The rhythm I'm using for all of these demonstrations, it's kind of triplet. So it's 1, 3, 4, and. So the first note takes the value of one set of triplets. So it's triplet, triplet, triplet. That's the rhythm. It's a kind of rhythmic grouping that I'm quite partial to. Probably arguably features too heavily in my playing, really. So yeah, let's first of all look at that D minor 7 arpeggio the way I played it just then. So I'm picking with a downstroke on D on the 5th fret on the A string, and then because that one note takes the value of one set of triplets, my picking hand has time to reset and play another downstroke. This is where the sweep comes in. I'm going, so I'm picking 8 on the A string, sweeping to 7 on the D, to 5 on the G, and finally upstroke to 7 on the G. You might be familiar with the principles of sweep picking, but the pick is literally sweeping across the strings. It's not leaving the strings. Yeah, very much like a kind of classical rest stroke where we're going. So the pick moves through the strings. If you've done any sweep picking or economy picking, you'll be familiar with that technique. Obviously, you can change the rhythmic figure. You can make it a 16th note thing, so you can go. Where you have to start with an upstroke if you're going to do that. So I'm going up, down, 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 up. Same notes. So you can opt to do that. You can even just sweep from the minor third of the chord. So from this F note. So there's loads of variety, you know, kind of make it your own thing. But for the purposes of this exercise or for this lesson, I'm going to stick exclusively to that rhythm from now on. So once you have familiarized yourself with that shape, we want to look at descending. So what I'm doing there, I'm starting with a downstroke on 7 on the G, and then I'm going up on 5 on the G, up again on 7 on the D, and up again on 8 on the A, finish with a downstroke. The fingering is optional. I get a little bit fiddly with these minor 7 shapes. Sometimes I'll use my 1st, 2nd and 3rd fingers. Sometimes I'll use my 1st, 3rd and 4th. Sometimes I might even use my 5th or 6th fingers. Ooh. So now that we've familiarized ourselves with that shape, it's really good practice to look at that in as many positions as possible. So we've got 4 possible positions. We can start on a low E string. on the A string, as we've looked at previously. On the D string, you have to alter the fingering there to compensate for the tuning of the B string. So that's 12 on the D, 12, 15, and then 14 on the G, 13 on the B, and then with an upstroke that's 15 on the B. If you can hear a scratching noise in the background, that's Bouncer, my dog, who's sitting just there. He's just having a little scratch. And then we want to play it on the G string. So with that, again, you've got to alter the fingering. We're going. All of these shapes will be transcribed in the link. So it's 7 on the G with downstroke. Downstroke again on 10. You kind of have to roll your third finger to play 10 on the B, and then down on 8 on the high E. Finally, 10 on the high E, and then start with the downstroke coming down, and then up, 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 down. So it's basically that figure. Now, at this point, when I say tasteful, you're not going to play that in a solo and expect to be tasteful. This is just, for the purposes of getting the exercise down. Now, it's worth pointing out the intervals of each of these arpeggios. So we're starting on the root, the flat 3, the 5th, the flat 7, and then to the root. So, as I say, our first chord is 2 bars on D minor 7, D Dorian. All our harmonic information is coming from the parent scale of C major. You can play D minor 7 arpeggio over a D minor 7 chord, of course you can, but you can also play an arpeggio off of the 3rd degree of the scale. So the 3rd degree of the scale is F. If we're thinking diatonically, so if we're thinking of chords and arpeggios that are diatonic to that key, to the parent key of C major, you can also play F major 7 over a D minor 7 chord. That was a bit cleaner. So for that figure, we're playing, we're starting on 8 on the A string. Same sweeping pattern, I won't go through that again. So 8 on the A, and then 12 on the A, 10 on the D, 9 on the G, and then 10 on the G. And then reverse it on the way down, using the same picking pattern as before. And that gives you a D minor 9 sound, which can sound really nice and can add a certain richness to the chord. So you can superimpose an F major 7 arpeggio over a D minor 7 chord. So this F note is going to be the minor 3rd. This A note is going to be the 5th of the chord. This C note is the flat 7. This E note is the 9th. And this F note is the flat 3 again. And that can sound really nice if you kind of bookend it with going back to the root note. Some of these reverse arpeggios, to my ears, they do sound a little bit too kind of, they can have a tendency to sound a little bit too kind of, here comes the sweep arpeggio, that kind of thing. So, but you find if you kind of bookend it with a root, you can make it sound a little bit kind of, just like a, almost add a little bit of bluesiness to it. So you're almost kind of disguising the arpeggio, so it's not this big kind of bombastic, ooh, here come the sweeps, everyone, that kind of thing. So we want to look at all of the occurrences and the fingerings of the F major 7 arpeggio. So we're starting on the low E string, then onto the A string, onto the D string. So the fingering is going to be different. That will all be in the tab, and then starting on the G string. So that sounds really nice with a, going back to the root of a D. You can also play off of the 5th degree of the chord, of the D minor 7 chord. So that would give you an A minor 7 arpeggio. Exactly the same fingering as the D minor 7. You just have to find your A root note and find that all over the neck. And that can be really handy. That actually gives you like a minor 11 sound. So in this particular context, over a D minor 7 chord, the A would be the 5th degree. The C would be the flat 7. The E note would be the 9th. This G note would be the 4th or the 11th. And then finally we'll be finishing on the 5th on this A note. That can sound really nice over a D minor 7 chord. And then, well, actually, before we go further, you can actually play off the 7th as well. I tend not to do that too much. I find it a little bit too removed from the harmony, but that means that you can play a C major 7 chord. If we're thinking diatonically, you can play a C major 7 chord over D minor 7. And why not? It's the parent. It's from the parent scale. So you can play that all over the fretboard. And you can start stacking them together. There's no reason why you can't play every diatonic arpeggio from the parent scale. So, C major 7, D minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7, G 7, G dominant 7, we'll come back to that in a bit, A minor 7, D minor 7 flat 5, B minor 7 flat 5, should I say, and then back to C major 7. You can throw them all around, but a really cool thing to do is to kind of stack the arpeggio, so you can kind of start working sequences into your playing where you're going perhaps that sort of thing. So I'm going D minor 7 to F major 7, A minor 7, and why not a C major 7 there as well. To the root, that could sound quite nice over a solo. Now the vamp that I was soloing over, our second chord is G7. However you want to voice that. And we can play obviously a G dominant 7th arpeggio off of that chord. Great for kind of Mixolydian stuff. So what we've got there, we'll start on this position here on the A string. So we're playing 10, exactly the same sweep pattern, but we're playing 10 to 14 on the A, 12 on the D, 10 on the G, 12 on the high E. And now we can start finding that all over the fretboard. So starting on the 3rd fret on the low E string, on the A string, on the D string, and slightly different fingering for the G string. Kind of ambiguous the way I finger that sometimes. So obviously you can play off of the root of the G7 chord. You can also play off of the 3rd of the G7 chord. That gives us a B minor 7 flat 5. B minor 7 flat 5 arpeggio. Let's just look at it down here. So starting on the 2nd fret of the A string, we're going 2, 5, 3 on the D, 2 on the G, and then 4 on the G. And then find that over the fretboard. So starting on the low E string, on the A, on the D string, and on the G string. Obviously you have to change the fingering to compensate for the tuning of the B string, as I keep saying. So off of a G7 chord, playing off the root note, G dominant 7 arpeggio just gives us a G dominant 7 arpeggio, as the name suggests. Playing off of the third, actually, if you stuck a G root on that, that would give us like a G9 sound. Because the B note would be the major third, the D note would be the fifth of the chord, this F note would be the flat 7 in relation to the G, of course. This A note would be the 9th, and then we finish on the 3rd. We can also play off of the 5th of the G7 chord, and that would take us back to D minor 7 again. The D note would be the 5th in relation to the G7 chord. The F note would be our flat 7. The A note would be our 9th. The C note would be our 4th or our 11th. And then we'd be finishing on the D note, which is the 5th of the chord. So you can start stacking those as well. And, you know, as I say, this is something that you kind of want to do sparingly in your solos. I kind of really went to town on the intro solo, but you know, it sounds quite nice to have a little flurry of notes, that kind of thing, or you know, even something as simple as that, just to give you a little bit of, you know, it's almost like you're disguising the sweep arpeggio, so it's not this, as I say, this big kind of event. So there you go, some arguably tasteful sweep arpeggios. Let me know in the comments down below if you think they're tasteful, or let me know how you would kind of use them in a solo. Any suggestions for future lessons as well would be great. And although that wasn't a blues lesson, if you're looking for an online blues guitar course, then please check out my other website, which is absolutebluesguitar.com. Until next time, cheers guys, and I'll see you soon. Take care.